Hey Cloud Gamers, today we're having a look at Immortals Fenyx Rising, which is available across the board on all platforms as of yesterday. We're having a look on Google Stadia at 4K on the Chromecast Ultra, the maximum settings 2080s at 4K streamed through Moonlight, and also GeForce Now on the Shield Pro upscaled to 4K with the AI upscaling. Starting it off then, I've cut the tops of this off just slightly so that you can't see which one has the stats. And see if you can tell me which one is Stadia, which one is maximum settings, and which one is the Shield TV upscaled. Across the board they're all looking pretty good, and none of them are hitting that magic 60 frames per second. One definitely has slightly better contrast to the other two here, and one does seem to have slightly better quality. As we freeze frame here looking at the environment, I'd say the middle one has the nicer coloration, the left one does seem to have the slightly better quality, and the right one does seem to be a little bit off. So if you hadn't guessed it, maximum settings 2080 Super on high settings is on the left, Google Stadia is in the middle, and GeForce Now via the Shield TV Pro with 4K upscaling is on the right. As you can see in the stats at the top for the maximum settings rig, it's bouncing between 40 and 50 frames per second. The Shield TV Pro, when we see the expanded version, you'll see is capped at 49 frames per second on high settings, but they are all looking extremely good across the board here. I really was quite impressed with Google Stadia's version, although we see a little bit of blurriness around the character at distance. The coloration and the smoothness, even though it does seem to be capped at 30 frames per second, is very impressive. As we freeze here looking over the environment, we can see that difference in the quality at distance, with the maximum settings rig being the clearest there, but there not being a lot of difference between the GeForce Now and Stadia versions, if anything the Shield TV version being slightly clearer. As we move over to the maximum settings 2080 Super rig, streamed via Moonlight here, you can see that it is getting it up to that 60 frames per second in some of the fight scenes. And with the kind of night sky areas, it does look absolutely phenomenal. As we go outside, we see those frames per second dropping a little bit during the battles, but we can see the quality is spot on. Takes a bit of getting used to get the parries right, and the destructible environment is a nice touch for this game. There is a lot of combinations to get your fingers around on the controller, and it has got a lot to get into. It's a very impressive game overall. As we move over to the Google Stadia version here, once we've got it full screen, we can see that it is absolutely spectacular. The coloration on Google is always, I think, one of the most vibrant, and those effects really do shine in the battles. From tests, it does seem to be only 30 frames per second. There was talk of a performance mode allowing 60 frames per second, but it was not available in this version. But if we do lose that quality in the performance mode, I think it would be a harsh compromise. The 30 frames per second here don't seem too bad, and the quality is where I'd expect it to be for 4K. Moving around, you don't notice the 30 frames per second that much. The cartoony style graphics do seem to be a bit more forgiving. As we move over to the GeForce Now version with the upscaled 4K, unless you look quite closely at the character model, you don't notice that sharpening too much. The environment around in the background definitely does look like it's meant to be 4K. However, when we do look at the character model, we can see that kind of sharpening effect from the upscaling. Shield TV Pro was the first version I used, so that's why the other battles were a bit more fluid. As we move outside, we see those frames again, capping around the 49 frames per second mark, but it is being very smooth. Again, you can see the sharpening effect on the character model a bit more obvious here, but the effects and the environment around the outside do look like they're upscaled extremely well. Overall, if you have a Shield TV Pro, playing GeForce Now with the upscaling is a great compromise. And when we go back into the kind of cutscenes here, it does use the settings that are available to it, and actually it is very difficult to tell the difference apart from the coloration between the three here. Although it does appear that the Stadia version was a slightly different time of day, as we've got quite a different tinge to the scenes here. Regardless of where you play this, it is a fantastic game and definitely worth picking it up. If you have Ubisoft Plus, obviously, then it does limit to where you can play, and paying £60 or £85 for the Ultimate version as a one-off may be a bit of a stretch, with Assassin's Creed Valhalla being out recently and also Cyberpunk 2077 right round the corner, not to mention Watch Dogs Legion also being out fairly recently. Let me know in the comments which system you're going to be playing on, and if you are going to be playing the game at all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest across all cloud gaming platforms, and I will see you next time.
But it's your funeral, except I can't die. Don't remind me.